In my mind's eye, I always picture this story, the triumphant entry of Jesus into Jerusalem, the Palm Sunday story, as if it were something like a parade, a spontaneous, spectacular, seething mass of humanity, all gathering for this processional, this parading of Jesus, the prophet from Nazareth in Galilee, the Messiah, the promised one, to the city of God, the seat and the heart of all power and authority for God's people. It is the at long last, this is what we've been waiting for celebration, the inauguration, the culmination of all the hopes and all the expectations and all the dreams and all the longings of God's people for generation upon generation. Of course, it's a big, big deal. It's huge. And everyone's coming out for it. Everyone is pressing together, pulling in tight. Everyone is craning their neck to catch a glimpse of the spectacle, to be able to say, I was there, I saw it, I was a part of it. It was amazing. You should have been there. Now, I don't know if you all are parade people or not, and let's face it, there are parade people, and then there are people who are not parade people. Quick show of hands, how many of you are parade people? All right, quick show of hands, totally safe. How many of you are not parade people? All right, so all three services is about 50-50. It's been fascinating to watch. I myself have been in both camps. I could go either way, and I have been either way throughout my lifetime. As a child, I can remember loving the thrill of a parade, the noise, the beat of the marching bands, the Shriners and their silly, ridiculous little mini cars. But most importantly, who can forget all the free candy that they were throwing from the floats at the parade? And as a child, if you had asked me whether I wanted to go to a parade, any time of day, anywhere, I would have said yes in a heartbeat. But then I joined marching band in high school. And I don't know if you've ever actually marched in a parade with a marching band, but let me paint a picture for you. I grew up in Tennessee. We marched in 100% humidity in 20-year-old wool full dress uniforms that had been worn by dozens of adolescent, pubescent teens before us, all with questionable hygiene practices, if any hygiene practice whatsoever. We would march for what felt like miles upon miles upon miles, recreating the actual Bataan Death March in Clarksville, Tennessee, in plastic shoes that must have been designed by some medieval inquisitor. We would have to play from memory the same two tunes over and over and over again, all while trying to remain upright in spite of dehydration and exhaustion, and keep our peripheral vision clear so we can be in line with those next to us and not trip over the ones in front of us, while teens and preteens are picking up candy from the float in front of us and chucking them at us as hard as they can. And I have to tell you, those great big sousaphones were the worst. It's like a target up there, right? Needless to say, parades very, very, very quickly lost their charm for me. And then I went to college in New Orleans. And I still cannot believe, after all this time, and I've talked to my parents about this, I still cannot believe that at 17, my parents drove me to New Orleans, dropped me off, and left me there. I loved the parades of Mardi Gras. I loved everything about Mardi Gras. I loved the king cake. I loved the music. I loved the colors, the lights, the floats, everything, the beads. I loved Mardi Gras. There's nothing in the world like a Mardi Gras parade. And in spite of the popular image of just this outrageous debauchery in New Orleans, I have to tell you that much of New Orleans and much of the city, all these parades are really actually quite family friendly. This is a wonderful, wonderful celebration. There's a great picture of families out there on the parades. It's a great celebration, and I loved being a part of it. But then again, all I had to do was show up, right? I didn't have to clean up afterwards. You know, nobody's really sure how far back parades go in human history. It's possible that we've been enjoying or dreading parades for millennia. Here's a computer-generated image from the Babylonian procession street, dating from the reign of Nebuchadnezzar II from the 6th century BC. You can see portions of this street reconstructed at the Pergamon Museum in Berlin, and this is actually a CGI representation of what that street looks like in the museum there in Berlin. Or if you want to go to the actual site, you can go to modern-day Iraq and visit the ruins of the processional street there. But this is a processional street that was designed and built specifically for parades, for parading armies or dignitaries or political and military leaders or captured soldiers from war from the 6th century BC. My point here is that gathering and processing and parading is something very, very ancient to the human experience and can be, maybe possibly, it touches at something fundamentally human about what makes us who we are, that there's this need for us to celebrate, a need to gather, a need to be part of a crowd, a need to be moved and excited and motivated by a spectacle, a great show. Like it or not, whether you're a parade person or not, throughout history, there's always been something about a parade. So what then is going on with this particular parade? This powerful procession of Jesus riding a humble donkey into Jerusalem. I wonder, for example, if, people camped out like they do for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade or the Rose Bowl Parade in Pasadena, if they scouted out their spot and brought their sleeping bags so that they could be there first. I wonder if word got ahead of Jesus before he got to Jerusalem. Surely it did, that he was on his way, and people rushed to join the crowds that were already gathering in Jerusalem, staking out a spot, camping out. I wonder if clever and thinking ahead merchants and vendors stocked up on palm branches and jacked up the price, like the street vendors that show up at parades selling overpriced light-up toys and stuffed animals inside of balloons and cotton candy ready to make a quick buck no matter what. Maybe. There does seem to be a sense, though, from Matthew's gospel that this was not quite like the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, where everything was on schedule and ordered and structured and permitted. It was a seemingly spontaneous, glorious, and loosely formed riot of people, some of whom were there on purpose and others who just happened to be at the right place at the wrong time, or if they were not parade people, they happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. You might have wished they were anywhere else but Jerusalem and with all the crowds. But it also seems to me that having been both a parade person and not a parade person in my lifetime, and having seen a parade and observed a parade and watched a parade and been in a parade, that distinction of enjoying a parade, being a spectator, and being in the parade is somehow getting blurred in this story. Did you catch that in Matthew's gospel just a little bit? The crowd, some of the crowd at least, does not merely watch the parade pass them by. The crowd, some of the crowd at least, they wave palm branches, they shout hosannas, they sing praises. Some of them throw their cloaks on the ground ahead of Jesus. They're actively taking part in, they are participating in the spectacle. They're playing a part in this great parade that's happening. They are, in point of fact, magnifying and multiplying and building the spectacle with their actions, with their lives, even with their bodies, their clothes, their arms as they march ahead and behind Jesus, the Messiah. And that seems to be something worth really pondering as we remember and celebrate not just Palm Sunday today, but all the events of this Holy Week. In fact, every aspect of our life in faith together. To what extent and in what ways are you, am I, actually participating in the redemptive acts of Jesus Christ in the world? Where are we? Where are you joining in this great parade of faith? Where are we joining along with the songs and the praises and the shouts? What are we bringing to this great saving grace being brought out again and again and again by Jesus Christ, the prophet, the Messiah. Where are we throwing a hand in, and where are we standing back, just watching? Are we just bystanders? Casually observing the spectacle of faith as it passes us by? Happy to be here, mostly happy to be here. Some of us dragged to be here. But when the fun is over and the service is ended, we just go home and go about our business like nothing happened and let somebody else clean up. I think too many of us are too content sometimes to just stand back, to stand on the sidelines, right? To passively enjoy the show and somehow miss out on the great glory of what's actually just passing us by, even in this very moment. Where in your world right now is God doing something unmistakable? Where in your circle of friends, in your family, in your neighborhood, in our community of Albuquerque, where in the world can you put a finger and say, oh my gosh, God seems to be doing something here? You know, we Methodists, we believe that God is at work in everybody's life all the time, everywhere, no matter what. We believe that. It's called prevenient grace. We believe that God's grace is at work in everybody's life all the time, everywhere, no matter what. So the question is, where have you caught a glimpse of that grace in your life, in somebody else's life, in the community? And if you caught a glimpse of that grace, why are you just standing there? Why are you just watching it pass you by? Join in. Sing a song. Shout praise. Do something. Be a part of this spectacular thing that's happened. Even if it's a tiny spectacular thing, it's spectacular nonetheless. Even if it costs you, if it makes you feel awkward or vulnerable or ridiculous, join this parade. Friends, you don't want to let any of this pass you by. God's grace is at work everywhere all the time. Don't miss it for a second, and don't just stand on the sidelines. We start our 8:15 service with a poem every Sunday. And this morning, Therese chose a poem prayer by Malcolm Gate. And coincidentally, it fit perfectly with the sermon, so thanks, Therese. This is our prayer from a poem by Malcolm Gate. Now to the gate of my Jerusalem, the seething holy city of my heart, the Savior comes, but will I welcome him? Oh, crowds of easy feelings make a start. They raise their hand, they get caught up in the singing and think the battle won. Too soon they'll find the challenge, the reversal he is bringing changes their tune. I know what lies behind the surface flourish that so quickly fades. Self-interest and fearful guardedness, the hardness of the heart, its barricades, and at the core, the dreadful emptiness of a perverted temple. Jesus, come, break my resistance, and make me your home. Amen.